this is practice partner, where we recognize that being a practitioner sometimes requires that we go into running a business in some way, shape, or form, whether that is part-time or whether that is a full-time income. And this is maybe not something that's taught when we do our core training. And I look back to my core training, and luckily I had you as my tutor, Rory. And there was actually a session that we did on starting a private practice, but it's kind of very shallow, not what you taught, Rory, but in terms of core training, because the time is spent quite rightly on becoming a professional practitioner. So practice partner, we're going to focus on that during this season. And today, Rory, you've chosen to bring business mindset. I think this is the crux. I think without this being in place, the rest is very difficult to get right.
Yeah. And I think we'd like to start, Ken, with looking at what the term business is. Yeah. Business is not a huge car, a large cigar, a pinstripe suit, and sitting behind a huge oak table in a leather chair. Business is providing a quality service to the people that you serve. Yeah. It's about making sure that you can pay your bills, and it's about making sure that in these times you can buy food, pay your bills, and look after you and your family. That is business. And I think, I might be speaking out of turn here, but I think some therapists think of business in the latter rather than the former. They think of it more as the cigar and the pinstripe suit and the Rolls Royce, rather than offering a service of which someone will pay you. And I think that it is absolutely principled to offer a paid service. Yeah. Mental health provision in this country, as we know, certainly talking about the UK, is, I would say, patchy. And people are happy to pay, private dentistry, private chiropody. These are all people who offer a private service. And I don't think counselling should be any different. And I acknowledge that might be a hard transition for someone who thinks that it should be free. The hard fact of the world is it's not. The provision isn't as widespread as it should be, and people will pay. So I think understanding the principles of business, that you're there to serve your customer, you're there to pay any bills that your business generates, and that you then take from that money to feed your family, is a pretty good start, Ken. What do you think?
Yeah, it's this topic of kind of valuing your skills and putting a pound or a dollar, depending on where you are in the world. I'm going to go through all the world's currencies now.
Yeah,
a value, a monetary value on your skills. It can be tricky because most of the time, going into counselling, we're kind of drawn into it because we want to make a difference. We want to help. We want to serve. We want to be there for others. We don't go into it to accumulate riches and buy the pinstripe suit, as you were just talking about, Rory, and the cigars.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset of wrestling with that, can I charge for this? If I'm charging for this, what about the person who can't afford it? And am I exploiting people in some way? And the truth of the matter is that if you're practicing as a counsellor, even if you are practicing in a charity and the sessions are being delivered free at point of contact, money is changing hands. It just is. It will be likely that charity will be funded because you need to open your cupboards at home and see tins of beans and sugar and flour. And we need to feed ourselves and look after our family, as you quite rightly said, Rory. And I think that it's the realization that taking money is not exploiting. There are different people who choose different routes, and there are people that, of course, struggle financially, and there are services and funded services in place. But on the other side, there are those that choose to pay, and they do choose to pay. And at a GP surgery where I did my placement, quite often the client would be suggested that counselling was offered within the practice, but it was quite a long waiting list. And people would say, can I pay? People can choose to pay. So there is no exploitation there. And I think if you're going to be running a business, if you're going to be running a private practice, you're going to be charging money for that. We need to wrestle with that, get over that first. And you're 100% right, Rory, when you're kind of defining what a business is. When we look to Wall Street, when we look to the capitalist system, there's a very ugly side to business. There just is. There is an incredible exploitation of the workers, of the it's all about profit margins, but it doesn't have to be that. That is not the definition of business. Business means you're kind of exchanging a service for money. And I think there's a great starting point to wrestle with that, to value yourself and go, you know what, I can charge for this. You work hard. You work hard to get your training. And when you go to get your training, they don't go, well, you're going to be doing good at the end of this training, so you don't have to pay for your training. They go, that will be so many thousands of pounds, please, for your training. You're paying for it. And I think that is a great starting mindset, Rory.
Absolutely, Ken. And have a think about all the people you deal with on a daily basis. It may be a local cafe owner, or I don't know, the person who runs the antique shop that you go in, or the charity shop you go in. They're all running a business. And there's near me, there's a young woman who's opened a hatch in a wall, which I think is brilliant. It's called The Hatch.
Love it.
And sells coffee and biscuits. And she was unemployed, and she's got herself a nice little business, exchanging money for coffee, cakes, homemade bread. The quality is a lot better than you would get at, maybe a chain, which is why she has a lot of customers. And she really looks after her customers. And I think that's the crux of it. As a self-employed person or someone in a business, you can offer the service you want to your customers. And to those who may say, well, private practice, it costs money. And everybody who goes private is reducing the waiting list of the list of people who can't afford it. And we don't live in an ideal world. I'd love that we lived in this world where everybody could get everything they wanted. And you could argue that, governments of any persuasion could do more. But the fact of the matter is we are where we are. And, if you feel you can do that and provide for your family, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I will share to you, I was only been in private practice for about 6 years. I spent the last 14 doing pro bono work. And I have to say, when I started in private practice, it felt really, I said to my supervisor, someone gave me some money. My supervisor said, yes, that's because you offered a service. And it took a little bit of getting used to. But I want to say it's okay. And you can choose, if you decide to offer a lower cost for someone who's struggling, it's your business, you can do that. So you can still be compassionate, but you should, if you've got a skill, you should be paid for it. And if you don't believe that, phone up the local decorator and ask them to paint your house for free. See how far you get.
Yeah. Or any other service, really.
Or any other service, yes.
Yeah. And I think, you touched on something there, Rory, about the years of pro bono work that you did, and then that feeling that came over you when it was now time to ask for money or receive money. And I think that's important because there's an area of personal development there. And I guess the question is, what is your relationship with money? If you look back in your life, how is that relationship? And sometimes when we're considering that business mindset, we need to confront our relationship with money. You may have sayings that go, oh, I'm not very good with money. Well, what does that mean? Where did that come from? Who gave you that? Is that real, or is that an irrational belief that you're holding on to there? And you can take this to your supervisor. There's no reason why you can't take the feelings that you have around your private practice relationship with the business mindset to your supervisor. I certainly did with mine. And I was, of course, paying my supervisor when I was going there. So there was a business transaction taking place. Yeah. And it's interesting, like yourself, Rory, when I was paying for those services, when I was paying for my personal therapy during my training, and I was struggling, I was holding down multiple jobs and balancing the life, as we all know, it's tricky times. Then when I was paying, and I was paying a slightly reduced rate with my counselor, which I'm really grateful for, I never at any stage thought, oh, I'm being taken for a ride here. This is exploitation. And when I was paying my supervisor, I wasn't thinking that. But when I was taking my first money, I had feelings of, oh, so the feelings only existed within me. And, you touched on something a little earlier, Rory, and that if you are charging for what you do in a business, now, obviously you would need to be set up as a business to be doing this. There is a potential that you might be able to help more people. We're told that when it comes to self-care, that we need to look after ourselves first in order to be there for our clients. And the same is true in business. And I look back to the roots of Counselling Tutor. Rory and I started Counselling Tutor because we wanted to help. And everything we put out was free for well over 2 years.
It was, yeah.
And during that time, we helped, I'm going to say, hundreds of people in that time. And we were able to serve those people, and we're glad we did that. And when we went over to paid services, I mean, we still have many, many free services. Counsellingtutor.com is free. This podcast is free. Our YouTube channel with millions of views is free. It's all free services. We put out so much for free. We've got when we went over to charging for some of our products, we thought really hard about it, and we made sure that what we were charging was really, I guess, kind and fair, and not profit driven, because the key motivator was always to still make that difference. And in selling those products over the years since we started that, Counselling Tutor has grown. As a result of that, it employs people who work within us, many of them counselors who write for us or do other work within Counselling Tutor. And we've gone from helping, supporting and serving hundreds of people to tens of thousands of people a year, and it's not about profit. Our values remain the same. If you're looking for our values, go to counsellingtutor.com, click on the About Us right at the top there, and you'll see our values. We put them on our website, and we will stick to those values, and we weigh every decision we make against those values. We are people over profit every single time, without compromise ever, because that's why we came into this in the first place. And if your mindset is pure, if you know why you are doing what you are doing, if you are in service, hey, it's all right to charge for it.
Absolutely, Ken. And there may be someone listening, a listener listening, thinking, I haven't got a business mindset. But I would ask you this question. You get your money, you get paid, you pay your bills, you pay your council tax, you pay electricity, gas, water. That is effectively running your home business. If you're organized to do that, either by, I do it like a lot of people, I standing order, it's done for me through the bank. But if you're doing that, then you actually have, the very fact you've set it up is the fact that you have a skill set that links into building a business. The next step is to think about how you promote yourself, how much you charge, the kind of mechanisms that you need to be a private practitioner, such as insurance and somewhere to practice from, or training if you're going to work online. You're going to offer yourself as online, but you're already most of the way there. It's amazing. People say, I've not got a business mind, and I say, well, you're actually paying your bills, and you're keeping afloat. So you're not as kind of you don't have the lack of agency that you think you have. You're already there, really. You just need to kind of step it up a bit. And I know lots of people who run really ethical counselling practices. Yeah. And one of the things that surprised me when I went into private practice, Ken, with the greatest respect to those people who may be listening, who may be my clients, was that the people who came to me were ordinary people. They didn't turn up in Ferraris or Porsches or helicopters. We didn't have a landing pad at my practice, I have to say. They turned up, and there are ordinary people wanting help, or extraordinary people wanting help. And they were happy to pay for that help, and they got the help they needed. You know, a lot said, this was really helpful. I can make the changes in my life. I know where I need to go. So there is a, I don't know, there's a principled position, I think, for offering paid counselling and being a private practitioner, Ken.
Yeah, well, this is what this new section is about, practice partner. We're going to be talking about many different elements of starting and running a private practice. And the truth of the matter is, it is simpler than many think. You know, we can overcomplicate it, specifically going on Google, starting to look around about how to start a business. You're going to be bombarded. You're going to be overwhelmed. It's simpler than you think. As you've already touched on, Rory, it's the same as running a home. You basically got bills that you need to pay and money coming in. But we'll touch on more elements of that. We hope that it is a useful topic. If you are considering starting a private practice, follow along. If